You're almost approaching your silver anniversary in this Army-Navy matchup, 24 years. I'm just kind of curious, if you take me back to that first game, how were you thinking about the contest then, and how has your thinking changed since then?
Well, it was 1995, and I knew it was obviously a big rivalry. Um, but growing up and in Hawaii, the biggest game was BYU in Hawaii. So I thought, well, I've been in rivalry games. I mean, I've seen that kind of hysteria. But I remember coming to the game and seeing all the midshipmen outside and the Corps cadets. I mean, just everybody, the whole brigade, the Corps, them in their gray coats, us in our black coats, and it was different. And just the air of it was different. It was unlike anything I'd been associated with. And Graham hasn't changed. The games, I mean, they're always big. They've different year, different stadium, different teams, same butterflies.
Well said. That's it from me, Scott. I'll save the rest for after everybody gets a chance.
Pete Medhurst.
Coach, we talk about this all the time in this rivalry. It's you try to treat it like another game, but it's not. And you've openly said that. I know the emotions of the players, you're trying to keep a temper on, but what about your coaching staff? Because professionally for you all, this is a big deal as well. Is the focus for the coaching staff and what you have to do with your staff, despite its experience, any different through this 2-week period getting set for this game?
We focus on the preparation. That's where you put all your focus in on games, like on any game, but big games, you focus on your plan, you focus on your preparation. The nerves will always be there. I don't know if there's anything you can do to calm yourself. I mean, whatever you do personally as coaches, you try to do. We try to get a lot of our work done in the previous week. I don't know how many of the games that we played them, Scott, a couple that they've won, we've had 1 week preparation.
Yeah.
Is it twice or 3 times?
At least twice, if not 3. I'll double check.
Yeah, for sure twice. And so now that you have 2 weeks, you try to do all of your work the previous week, Pete, so there's a lot of the grinding part, and then tell guys to try to get a little bit more rest these games. So you're clear-minded on game day, that you got some rest the best you can. I mean, it's easier said than done, but maybe try to get some rest the best you can. But I mean, obviously it's a huge game.
Twice is correct.
In terms of over this 2-week period, how difficult is it to figure out how hard to go with your players and how much to back off? Because as you've talked about through the years, rest and recovery, especially with the schedule you all have played, is paramount for these guys, but yet you want to make sure they're ramping up as they head into this game, at peak mindset, ready to go.
A lot of times I've done things in the past, like when we win, like, let's do like we did this year, or maybe we do it like this, and you try to build off some of your experience from the past. This year it's been just this team, 2021. So what do we need today? Normally you have a 2-week game plan out in place already. This is what we're gonna do this day, you're gonna do this. This is how many periods you're gonna go this day. But really for us, it's been day to day. It's a different team, got a younger team. We're all banged up. So we're trying to figure out what's best for this team. So that's how we try to manage this year, Pete. Just we discuss it as a staff every day, kind of see where we're at, what we need, specific to each player, specific to each team, specific to each play, and then we try to tailor it that way. But I think a lot of it has to do with just some of our young guys, but also, like you said, you got to balance, because you got some older guys that have played, but you don't want to go 3 hour 2.5 hour practices, and the older guys get beat up. So it's been a balance.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Phil Bergman.
Coach, if Ty Lafayette starts, this will be his first Army-Navy game starting. What advice do you give to a young quarterback in their first Army-Navy game?
I don't talk to them too much. Coach Jasper has done a great job over the years. I know, different quarterbacks from the past talk to, sometimes Coach Jasper does that. my stuff is always on focusing on the preparation. Just focus on the preparation. You're going to be nervous no matter what. I mean, Keenan Reynolds as a senior was nervous. You know, when he said that going into our, you know, we played Pitt in the Military Bowl, and he talked about that game. He was just grateful that he got that game behind him. And this is one of the best quarterbacks we've ever had. And so they're going to be nervous. You know, just tell them just to focus on the preparation. That's where we put our mindset on execution.
And for the seniors on this team, for most of them, this will be the last time they ever put on pads, ever put on that helmet and play football. You've coached in 24 of these games. What's this moment like for these seniors?
It's always emotional. There's always a finality for them. Even when we had our bowl games, you know what I mean? Just the Army-Navy game, there's a finality. Because even the bowl games, those are fun. You know, that's always been my approach. Just go have fun, enjoy yourself. You know what I mean? So there's always a finality to this game. And so it's unique. You know, there's a lot of emotion, winning and losing. I mean, either way, I mean, there's always emotion because it's the last game. There ain't any more games. You know, we might have a few that I have a chance to go to the league, which would be awesome. But the majority of them, this will be the last time.
Thank you.
Bill Wagner.
Coach, if you could talk a little bit about the Army defense. It's a pretty veteran unit and some guys that are relatively accomplished like Eric Smith and Markel Broughton, Cedric Cunningham. They've got two good safeties. Can you just talk about a little bit about the Army defense and the challenge of trying to move the ball and score some points on them?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. You know what I mean? Like you just mentioned, all the guys on the defense, they're a veteran group. You know, a couple of them been stretched, you know what I mean? So they're even more veteran, you know what I mean? And so good football team, good defense, well coached. You know, the guys that played under Bateman were well schooled. Obviously, Woody's a really good coach too. Coach Luce, you know, he's coaches or linebackers, been there a while. They got veteran staff too, guys have been together. But really good team, Wags. Really good defense. Athletic, physical, well coached.
I was going to ask you about Woody. Obviously, Jay Bateman left and he took over as D coordinator. Last year was your first year playing against his defense. Is he a Bateman guy? Is he a kind of a Bateman disciple doing similar type stuff? And did he defend you differently than Bateman did?
No, I mean, Bateman's a great defense coordinator. So is Woody. I mean, yeah, Woody's got his own reputation. You know what I mean? Got his own deal. I mean, he was well established before he came to Army. You know what I mean? This guy's a really good football coach. Reminds me a lot of Buddy. You know what I mean? Buddy Green, just hard-nosed, well-coached, well-disciplined, fundamentally sound. When I look at their defenses, I think of Buddy Green defense. I mean, there's, I would say Bateman and New are very similar in some of their stuff they do. And I would say, you know, Woody's probably more along the lines of kind of how Buddy was.
Scott Wyckoff.
Yeah, Coach, piggybacking off of what you were talking about with Pete and also Phil, the preparation, how have your impressions been of the preparation so far of this team in the practices you've had, how they've been responding?
I've been encouraged. Good weeks of practice. You know, I've been encouraged, you know, what we've been doing, coming off a win. Just encouraged how we practice. So we've had a good week of practice.
I know with all you're doing to prepare for this game, how proud of you are you of your son and his team, what they've accomplished getting to go to the Rose Bowl?
Yeah, it's exciting. You know, it's exciting for them. You know, their team's been through a lot. You know what I mean? Just with the deaths on the team of a couple of his teammates, you know, they've had to go through some real life stuff. So, you know, proud of him, proud of the team, proud of Coach Whittingham. I mean, happy for Utah that, you know, after all this happened to their team, they finally won a Pac-12 championship and go to the Rose Bowl.
You know, as you prepare for what's always an emotional game, it's the 40-year anniversary of your Prep Bowl victory when you're playing in high school, of what talked about here in the island is probably the most emotional game ever played in period in the game of football. What did that game do for you and kind of set you on your path of what you would accomplish here in your coaching career?
Well, very grateful for Coach Velasco, just all that I learned from him. Great disciplinarian, tough, strict. A lot of things that I do on my team, I learned from him. You know what I mean? Just a hard-nosed coach. So I learned a lot from Coach Velasco, and to be able to win that year, to go undefeated, that year was just a great tribute to a great man. But I've taken a lot from him. Coach Norwood and I, who have, both, got into the coaching profession. Josie Amalu, there's a couple of us, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, that got into college coaching, but all of us will tell you that we learned a lot from Coach Velasco and took a lot from that team. But a lot of things that I learned from him, I do with this team. Building a family, building ohana, being together, playing for each other, playing for your teammates. All of that stuff I learned from Coach Velasco. And so probably one of the most influential people in my coaching tenure, just Coach Velasco, because he's just loved us, loved the players. We were afraid of him, but we would do anything for him. He was a black belt in Kempo karate, so nobody messed with him. But we loved him. We loved Coach Velasco. And like I said, a lot of what's happened to my career and being able to coach, I got from Coach Velasco.
And the last thing is, right now, Fred Salanoa leads that program, and he has a tradition of the varsity players not being able to wear the ram horn until they play right before they play their first varsity game. And he explains it as because there's such a strong history and because there's so much emotion behind the program, from what you're talking about right there. And as an alumni, as someone that feels strongly about that program, what does that mean to you, knowing that that's the kind of tradition that's being held right now?
It's awesome. I just saw Freddie the other week, and just that team, that school, the things you learned, the tradition. It was more than football. The things I learned, a lot of us are still really close. A lot of us still talk to each other, but proud that, Fred continues on, may not, be like St. Louis and Kahuku's of the world now, but just the stuff that Freddie's teaching, the life lessons and things that he's doing, couldn't be more proud of him and what's going on there at Radford.
Mahalo, Coach, and thanks everyone for letting me interrupt.
No problem. We'll come back around. We'll come back around to you, Rob. We'll take another go around with 2 questions. Graham Knight.
Hey, Coach, thinking back on the Air Force Army game, the first half of that game was a ground battle, and in the second half, Army came out quick with a couple of aerial strikes. When I asked Coach Monken about it, he said he was doing what he had to win the game. And then that game was decided on a defensive play. You've talked a lot about preparation. How does that game, if at all, affect how you prepare for your game on the 11th?
Well, the game didn't look like any different than any of the other Service Academy games. We had a close game last year with them. The score isn't 15-0, but we still feel like we scored. To this day, we'll go to it thinking we scored. But, their game after that was a very close game, with Army and Air Force. Our game, this year was a close game, Air Force and Navy, at the end kind of got away, but it was always a close game. And it was the same thing with Air Force and Army this year. It was 0-0 at halftime. And so it's hard to move the ball against each other. We know that. It's always has been that way. And, they threw the ball. Air Force threw the ball to move the ball in the second half, and so did Army. And so you just kind of go into games, see what you have to do to win. But we all know each other. We can practice against option stuff, which makes it different compared to everybody else. Other people might work out in the spring, but you don't have an offense to practice the option. Where Air Force and Army, all 3 of us, Navy, we go against ourselves, so become pretty familiar with each other. So it becomes hard to move the ball because you know each other so well.
Yeah, and my other question has to do with preparation. A lot of coaches want their teams to peak at the right time as they get to the championships or the final game. And as I look at Navy's trajectory, Navy seems to be on this kind of peak, started out kind of rough, and then it was a drive, and then it was a quarter, and then it was a half. And when you look at your last game against Temple, hold game performance, is Navy peaking now? Are you peaking at the right point, or is that even a consideration for you?
I think so. We've been playing well. I mean, I thought we took a step back against Notre Dame, and the more I look about it, it might have been Notre Dame. You know what I mean? Just think about this: if Georgia would have won, we would have played two teams that would be in the Final Four, or you know what I mean, or if Iowa would have won. I mean, that's the reality. Scott sent something out on the defenses that it's ridiculous the amount of top 15 defenses. Just been one of those years, and so I've seen improvement. I've seen us improve. But sometimes your competition, you kind of look like, well, you still lost in the end. You know what I mean? Like, but I've been encouraged. I've been seeing us improve a lot. But sometimes your schedule doesn't allow that. I don't know if we played great against Temple and we still won 38-14. And I thought we played our butts off against Cincinnati. I think we had the closest game against Cincinnati.
That's correct.
You know what I mean? So people is like, oh, you guys lost it. No, we played them closer than anybody. We had the ball at the end with a chance to beat them. I was going for two. I mean, there wasn't any question. I wasn't kicking, you know what I mean? I was going for two. You know what I mean? And so sometimes people don't see that because they see the other side of it. Oh, well, you can't beat Houston. I mean, nobody else has beat Houston in 2 years. You know what I mean? Cincinnati or – so I guess my point, Graham, is, yes, we've been improving. But like if you're a boxer or something, you're fighting Floyd Mayweather. Like I think I got better, but then you got 6 black eyes. You know what I mean? Like, but but who else is beating him? You know what I mean? I thought we played well against Notre Dame and Cincinnati. You got one loss in between them. So yeah, I mean I've been doing this a long time. We'll be ready for those guys. I'll just tell you that we'll be ready for those guys.
All right, terrific. Thanks, Coach.
We played, to follow up on Coach's point, played 3 of the top 10 defenses and 6 of the top 22. And that's by Pro Football Focus, who goes deeper than just the statistics. It's a lot of things go into that. It's a true measurement. Pete Medhurst.
Coach, as you evaluate Ty's play through the course of the year, maybe is there a silver lining in this? The fact that he has played so many tough defenses. So it's been a baptism by fire. You've had a chance to observe him against adversity. Thoughts on how he's developed, taking all of that into account in the global view?
He's done some good things. And as a young quarterback, he's done some not so good things. But I think what you said, Pete, will definitely bode well for us in that, he's played against some really good defenses and in big time environments. And you hope all of that stuff helps him. Now, there's nothing like the Army-Navy game, but, hopefully playing in South Bend, with 85,000 people, hopefully that'll help. Hopefully, him seeing some of that stuff will help. He's done some good things. Obviously we'd like to have done some more good things. I mean, we're always going to hold him to a standard, but, we're hoping that, he has a really good game, which I thought he played well against Cincinnati. You know what I mean? And maybe if that's another team that's, maybe it's a little bit different, but he's still progressing, Pete. And I think he's doing some better things, and he recognizes for us to win, he's got to play well. I mean, that's just, anytime we beat him, the quarterback's played well.
6 of the last 8 quarters, when you've asked him to throw the ball, he's been pretty effective. They have obviously had more success with their play action passing game this year. Do you sense that both of you at times will have to complete some passes here to get good rushing defenses, off of the line of scrimmage a little bit here?
Yeah, I think so, Pete. I think every year it's been like that. Look at the years maybe Malcolm's probably different. Malcolm rushed for 300 yards, but the year we hit Jameer, on that long crossing route, the year we hit Brandon Turner down the sidelines, you know what I mean? So, it's hard to move the ball against each other. So, we're both going to have to, when we do take our shots, we gotta make them pay, and it's not like we're throwing teams or something, but we both recognize that when we do our play action, we gotta complete them. Probably to me, that's probably the one difference I see in the Army this year than in years past. I mean, Anderson kid, we're really both of them. They're doing a really good job, and when they do take their shots, they're completing it. And they're definitely a threat in the passing game.
Thanks, sir.
Bill Wagner.
Coach, we're going to be talking to Jayden Umbarger here next. It's kind of been remarkable to me how productive he's been on the reverses. I'm sure opponents see him on the field and have scouted you enough to know that, hey, watch that guy, 87, he could be running a reverse. Yet he's averaging 12.2 yards per carry. Nine times he's taken the reverse, and he's getting you double-digit yards. He had a 32-yarder and a couple other real long ones. Can you talk about him being so effective? And sometimes he's had to make guys miss in order to get past the initial, line of attack.
That's a great question, Wags. You're exactly right. It hasn't had to be perfect. Like, we haven't had to have the perfect defense. There's times where there's a guy back there waiting on him and he makes a miss. So it's almost become like a regular play for us. But we also recognize if you got a player back there that's worried about the reverse, or your fold player, your cutback player sitting back there waiting on that, then it's harder for those guys to fall in on the fullback. You know what I mean? So you can't play, you can kind of try to chase the quarterback down and you come off the edge. Then it allows us to run reverse. But then guys like, we'll sit a guy back or have a guy, climb high. You know what I mean? So hopefully that you can have some stuff when you get some backside cutback plays that, that play can break farther because they're worried about the reverse. But you're exactly right, Wags. Several times there's a guy waiting back on there and he makes a miss. So it gives you more confidence as a play caller to call it, because if it's not the right defense, he's pretty much made the first guy miss every time.
And last for me, any update on the offensive line? Pena, Masani, Mertesi. I mean, Andy, you think any of those guys are going to be back for this one?
Probably Mertesi is probably doubtful. Masani, doubtful to questionable, and Pena probably questionable to probable. I mean, he did. The three they're improved. So we got one more week, and probably Mertesi is probably the furthest away. Probably very, very unlikely that he'll play.
Let's go to Rob DeMello.
Hey, Coach, last thing for me is every year, really throughout your career, you wear a lei on the sideline, but the Army-Navy game is always the most elaborate one. And so can you tell us a little bit about the background to that? Is it parents of players? Is it your family? Where does this come from? And how much pride do you carry in wearing those?
Well, to be honest with you, Rob, it's changed over the years, and I don't want to bring the family's name up because it's sad, because the lady that made the tutu they made for me passed away. So, just out of respect for their family. But she made it for me for years, and I always wore it. The family would meet my wife at the stadium and I would wear it. But she's passed away, and so now we still wear them, but it's always emotional for me, because what a wonderful lady for years that she made it. She's from Kauai, and just it was a beautiful lei. But more than anything, I definitely felt some honor from it. I mean, I got some power from it. But unfortunately, that wonderful tutu passed away.
Mahalo, Coach. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Phil Bergman.
Yeah, I guess, Coach, anything else you want to add about the game or about guys on the team that you haven't had the chance to yet today?
No, we're just looking forward to it. We're looking forward to the game. Our guys have worked hard. They haven't flinched this whole year. The season's not what they wanted, but I've been impressed with them working the whole year, the whole season, and they recognize for the seniors, winning this game will change everything for them and catapult us into the offseason.
What an 8 or 9 months it's been for you, from quarterback in the spring to now contributing receiver for the Army-Navy game. What's this journey been like for you over these months?
Definitely. It's been definitely been a crazy journey. over the 8 or 9 months. Getting moved around was definitely something I had to get used to. In high school, I had a little bit of experience with playing multiple positions, but in a higher level, you gotta be more locked in because there's a lot of little things you need to learn and kind of pick up on. Honestly, it's been exciting. Kind of just being anywhere I can help the team. It's like that's what it's about, and that's what Navy's about. You see a bunch of guys get moved around, but we really don't complain. We just just adapt and kind of just overcome and just keep pushing forward.
How excited are you heading into the Army-Navy game, knowing that you could potentially be playing a major role?
Really excited. I would definitely say going into this year, just like we were talking about, definitely was not expecting to be, put into a role like this. So it's really exciting. Right now, don't really feel any nerves right now, but more so just, kind of determined and just really want to, go at these guys and just play every play with a lot of effort and that's all. So
being from Baltimore, going to high school here, growing up in the shadows of the Naval Academy, what did this game mean for you, if anything, when you were growing up?
So didn't really know much about the service academies when I was younger, but going into high school, I know a couple guys that had went to the service academy, and 2 quarterbacks that went to my high school actually went through the Naval Academy, Zach Avey and Evan Falkman. So kind of seeing them play in the games, definitely when I was at school, it just kind of, motivated me to, it's like one day I'm going to be in their shoes and, seeing those guys and the contributions they had to the program, kind of carrying on those same contributions, just hoping that, I could be in those shoes and, live up to those kind of not expectations, but, look at those guys and say, okay, this is what their standard was. How can I raise that standard?
Thanks a lot and good luck in your first Army-Navy game.
Thank you, Scott.
Phil Bergman.
Hey, Jayden, Phil Bergman, Navy Sports, NavySports.com. As Scott kind of touched on, it's been a wild journey. If I were to tell you, a year ago that you'd be a playmaker, a wide receiver heading into an Army-Navy game, what would you have said?
I definitely would not have expected it. Not one bit. I maybe would have expected it at a different position, but not at wide receiver. But, like I said, being on this Navy football team, you're going to be put into roles that you might not be used to. But, we're all kind of just trying to put forth our different efforts so, we can get the job done. So I wouldn't have expected it. And to be honest, it could have been any other position, like if they could have said, well, like, Jayden, you're going to play safety, or Jayden, you're going to do this, like, it would have been unexpected either way. So definitely unexpected, but definitely grateful for what I've worked for and what are the opportunities that I was presented with.
We were talking to Coach Niumatalolo about the reverses that you run. When you're a part of that play, what's that feeling like turning around that corner, breaking an edge, and just heading downfield on those plays?
Yeah, so I will really say every reverse I've gotten so far, I didn't know that I would be getting it on those plays. I knew that maybe we had a chance of running it in the games, but it's always a surprise when it comes. Either I'm getting called into the game about to run it, or I'm already in the game and it comes out of nowhere. And it starts right when the play, is called. You're in the huddle and it's just like, it's about to get real, especially the first game against Marshall. Then every time after that, I got more comfortable with it. But it's definitely a play where, you're counting on to either make a first down, make somebody miss, or, even if I could score, which I haven't been able to this year, but, maybe I'll have a chance this week.
And lastly, from me, you got to experience Army-Navy last year, but having all the fans back in the stands, everything else going on, what's this moment like for you going to be running out of the tunnel and playing in this game?
It'll be surreal. It'll be, a moment that, you can't really relive. You can only think about is, what would you do when you showed up? So I'm really excited to, run out on the field and, just play these games with the guys, because that's what it's all about. When I'm looking around, I'm going to be seeing, all the dudes that we work so hard with when, the fans weren't around. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to, is just being around the guys when we, run out there and, beat up on Army.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Wagner.
Hey, Jayden, good to see you. Well, that's following on what Phil was saying. I've started dubbing you Mr. Reverse because I think you've taken every reverse. Scott, has anyone else, any other wide receiver taken a reverse yet this season?
I don't think so. I'm almost positive.
Right. So, I mean, talk about the responsibility, because as you mentioned, when your answer to Phil, a big play is expected. And, it's not a guarantee you're going to completely fool the defense. So you mentioned you're probably going to have to make a guy or two miss.
Right. So, I mean, for the most part, just knowing at first, this is a high risk, high reward play. So it's like, when I'm getting the ball, I got to know that I can't, lose any yards and definitely take care of the ball. So I would say that at the same time, while it could be, a little heart wrenching to kind of, I'm getting the reverse, like I don't want anything bad to happen. It's kind of this excitement that, I'm going to get the ball and I have the chance to, make a play. So, and that's how I carried it each time. I didn't really think about the negatives. I just knew that, all right, I'm getting this chance, so I'm going to make the most of it. And, I always just say, like, kind of every verse I get, I hope that I could score, but if not, just, get positive yards. And then really all this year, that's what it's been for the most part.
Yeah, I don't think you've had a negative yards. I mean, you're averaging 12.2 yards. I don't think you've had one that was less than double digits. I'll go check. What is the key? How do you sell that initially when you're lined up there on the wide? It's going to be a reverse, but you got to try to sell it in some way. Do you start forward a little bit, or what do you do over there?
So it all starts off with the formation and knowing where to line up as far as your split as a wide receiver. You don't want to line up too close, because if you line up too close, they'll probably think something like, oh, is this going to be coming? So so it starts off with the split, and then kind of just give a little step forward. And then by that time, the only person that really noticed that is the reverse on the defense is most times just the corner that's covering me. Everybody else, by that time, they're thinking the ball is going the other way. So it gives me that extra space that I'm cutting my split out to. It gives me time to, for there to be more sucks, so I can get around, and basically all that there is open field and maybe one or two defenders. So
is there one you wish you could have? I mean, I know you had a 32-yard gain. Was there one where you thought you were going to score and you got tripped up and you're like, man, one more guy, if I could have made one more guy miss, I was gone?
Definitely last game against Temple. And then Marshall. All the long ones, I thought maybe if I made a couple guys miss, I could. A couple of the short ones that I didn't really expect to get far. But I would say, almost every reverse besides the ones I barely got any yards on, or I pretty much thought that I could score on. Just like you said, making that one or two guys miss. And I mean, and that's when it comes down to, and that's what I think this week's going to come down to when we play Army is, which team is going to, make that one extra effort to gain a couple more yards or make that one more guy miss. So
there's going to be a lot of talk this week about your classmate, Ty Lavatai. He's going to be playing in his first Army-Navy game. How will he handle it, the nerves, etc.? Ty pretty well. You were in the quarterback's room together for a year. What do you think? And is Ty going to be up to the challenge?
Ty, by far most, he's a great guy. I think that besides even football, he has great character, and I think that he's built for these type of moments. Being in with Ty, he's very detailed. He's very focused. He definitely has it up top, and as far as like him being able to make decisions, I think he'll be fine. I think we've been focused a lot of these 2 weeks, and the preparation, we've been putting in the work to make sure that when we get certain looks that we know what to do. So knowing Ty and knowing how focused he is and how determined he is to win, I think that his decision making will be great. I think nerves everybody's going to have nerves when they first go out, and he might have some in the beginning, but I mean, he's taken a couple licks before. So I think once he takes a couple hits and gets tackled, then he'll be fine.
And last for me, Coach Niumatalolo just said that, these two defenses play the options so well. The best way to back them off a little bit is to hit a pass play. How important do you think it's going to be for Ty or the quarterbacks, whoever it ends up being in there, and the receivers to connect? Like Coach Niumatalolo said, if we throw that ball, we gotta connect. We gotta make a play.
Yeah. So like I was saying, coming to these games, I think we're looking for explosive plays. Whatever team I think has the more explosive plays their chances of winning will definitely be in their favor. So I think that if we can hit the shots on the plays that we have in, and I think we'll be fine. And that all starts with first, setting them up, running the ball. And then when we do have the chance to take the shot, that, we know what we're doing, and, we're ready to make the play. And that's what practice is about. We practice to, take these shots. And I think once the moment comes, when we've been trying to, run the ball, dice them, and then hit those shots over top. I mean, we have a bunch of talented receivers in the room, guys that can, get the ball there. I think the play will be made.
What's it like on the yard when you're with the brigade during this week leading up to the Army-Navy game?
So there's a lot of at night, a lot of things go on as far as like there's prank stuff. So, everybody gets kind of, wild up for that, having the chance to, do pranks, and it's a bunch of stuff that goes on. And people in the spirit really comes out. I mean, all year, you hear it, but then when it's finally coming up to the week, it's like people are really starting to get serious. So it's kind of just cool seeing how everybody is like, serious about being an Army, and, just the spirit that comes along with being here.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Phil Bergman.
Yeah, two more questions for you, Jayden. First is, I've been really impressed all season with your work ethic and hustle in practice and in warmups. Where did this practice or you play the way you practice mantra come from for you?
So, I mean, in high school, I would say our coach, he tried to simulate the practice after Navy. So we had like similar periods and 5-minute periods, and we would go offense, defense, all that. So I kind of, in high school, I knew, practice was important already from my coach. But, as soon as I got to college, though, I realized, here that everything you do, you kind of got to do it with intensity. And, I kind of picked it up mostly from, I would say, like the wide receiver coach, Coach Yo. Like, as soon as I came in the room, everything you're doing is getting monitored. Like, nothing you do is like going under the radar. So I would say he kind of instilled that, like, come to practice every day, ready to work. And I can't remember a day where, I was at practice and I'm just trying to get through it. Like, I kind of had that mindset of where, all right, it's another day. It's just like another day to get better, no matter if we lost that week, if we won. It's just kind of like, there's always work to be done. And here, if you try to take a day off, it's not going to look good for you, come game time, because, that's how we prepare. So that's where we separate ourselves from the opponent. So.
And lastly, for me, you switched from 15 to 87 this year. You could have stayed at 15 as a receiver. Was there an NFL player or someone you wanted to change your number off of?
I will actually say that I wanted to keep 15 at first, and then talking to G and a couple of equipment guys, that they were talking about because usually wide receivers have numbers in the 80s, and I think it's just for me it's kind of like a tradition thing. Like, I know the wide receiver before us, he had number 87, and kind of, I don't know, just looking at the Navy receivers before, there's been a couple of good guys that have 87. And I thought, why be why try to, I'm not into being too different, just kind of like carrying that tradition of having like a wide receiver number. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Wags.
I think Ryan Mitchell had 87, was a good wide receiver. Isn't that right,
Yeah.
Strauss? Wasn't he 87?
Yep.
Yep. That's a good guy to emulate, Jayden.
Mhm.
You mentioned Coach Yo. He was a guy that blocked hard. And he has always emphasized that you don't block, you do not play. I don't care if you run the fastest 40 or the greatest pass receiver ever. How have you done with blocking? I see your biceps there. You look a lot bigger than when I came to talk to you on the day you committed to Navy out of Spalding. How are you coming along with your blocking? Are you up to Coach Yo's standards?
So that was like one of the, first day. There was a certain technique you had to have, and I didn't have it at first, but kind of working all the way from spring all the way up until when we got to fall camp. That's one like major point of emphasis in the off season that I worked on a lot. And I think that's where I kind of separate myself as far as like being in the wide receiver room. Like I took blocking serious, and even still till practice this past Saturday. Even though it's like the tempo might be not as high from the the corners, but I'm still making sure that my feet are right, tight hands. So I do value the skill of actually blocking in this offense, because those blocks can really set up like big plays. So yeah, I've came a long way from not having any technique to now kind of still learning to perfect it. So yeah, it's helped me a lot, and I think that's what's gave me a good advantage of being in the position I am now, of just as a receiver, like Coach Yo said, like you got to know how to block. So